Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Pearl Lemon podcast. I'm sitting here very blessed this morning to hang out with Mr. Chris 70. Welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me today. Great to be here.
And I'm excited for you to give us kind of your 30,000 view of who are you, what do you do, where are you based, where in the world are you, and we can roll from there, Chris.
Yeah, so starting at that 30,000 foot view, I am based just outside of Washington, D.C. in Northern Virginia, married, 2 great kids.
Yes.
And so that's, of course, takes up a lot of time. But I also run my own company, which I run a mortgage note fund, which most people have no idea what that is. And I can talk a little bit more about that and how I've gotten into that as well, because it's an interesting story. But I just kind of start out, a little bit there, and let you kind of pick the questions that you want me to answer.
Sounds great. So let's just start with mortgage note fund. Please explain.
Okay. Well, do you own a house? Let's start with that.
I do, and I'm standing in it right now.
Okay. I'm guessing that you probably have a mortgage on that home.
Well, that's a big assumption, but of course, yes.
So, if you didn't, then you're probably on a beach somewhere not talking to me. But
This is true.
So what we do is, let me step back. When you bought your house, you signed all these documents, which 2 documents in there. One was called a note and the other was called a mortgage. And the note is the IOU that says, I'm going to pay you back, bank, at, $100,000 at 6% next 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the mortgage is the document that says, Chica, if you don't pay, we can go after your house and foreclose on you.
Great.
And what we do, and typically after about 90 days after you sign up, you get a letter in the mail that says, now please send your payments to this new company. Your mortgage was just sold. Most people have no idea that happened. But it really doesn't, a lot of times it gets sent to Fannie Mae, who's kind of a quasi-government. We're not going to go down that road. What we do is, let's say you stopped paying your mortgage. Banks don't like it when people don't pay their mortgage.
No.
And what they do a lot of times is they may actually sell that mortgage off to somebody else. That's where I come into play. Is I'm buying that defaulted mortgage from the bank and going back to you and trying to work out a new payment plan with you.
Interesting. Okay. So instead of coming after me and knocking on my door, taking my house, my kids, hide your wife, you're literally just saying, okay, I understand you didn't make the payment. Is there anything that we can do to work out a better deal? Because I now own, or I'm responsible for collecting payments.
Correct. And as a perfect example, let's say you owe 100,000. I may have bought it from the bank for 75. So I can go to you and say, hey, look, you're $10,000 behind. How about if you can be, and most of the time people are like, I don't have 10,000 to get caught up. And the bank's like, sorry, you can't do anything. But I could say, give me 2,000 and then start paying again. And then we might tack it on to the end balance or work something out. Now, there has been instances where, yes, we do have attorneys send letters out to people to, force them to come to the table. But we try and work with people to get them on new payment plans. And what we like to say is we fix and flip mortgages, just like people fix and flip houses. We're taking somebody who's got battered credit, buying it from the bank and trying to rework a deal with them. Then if we can get them back on a payment plan, we bought it at a discount, we can turn around and sell it for a little bit more than what we paid for it, make a premium.
So we've made the agreement now, and then now you go sell it off to another bank or
another bank or an investor or whoever it is.
Somebody.
Based off of, first I'll make sure like you're making those payments, because it's like, you have somebody fix your car up. You kind of want to make sure it's working before you turn around and sell it again or whatever you fix.
Sure.
Same thing. We'll hold it for like 6 months, let those payments come in, and then, turn around and, sell it off back out onto the market. And there's a lot of people who actually do this. And the first thing everyone asks us is, well, 2008, because everyone's like all this stuff and
the Big Short,
the Big Short and everything. That's so in the past that all that stuff really can't happen today. What happened then, because of this laws called Dodd-Frank and the Consumer Protection Finance Bureau, So
Wow.
it's very different today, in a different environment today, to do what we do.
Wow. Well, let me take a step back. Thank you for that. That's a fascinating world. It is. I went straight to The Big Short when you started
Yeah.
talking too.
So that's
That's
first thing
great.
people go to.
Um, so let me back up. How long have you been running this business? How big, like how many staff do you have now? Like how
Mhm.
many, what's your portfolio? Maybe you can give us a bit of that and then I got a question underneath that.
Yeah. So my current company is 2 years old, but I've been doing this for 8 years.
Okay.
And I've been in real estate since the late 90s. I used to run large commercial construction projects. I ran some multifamily divisions for some developers. And then in 2016, I started doing this on my own. And then I started raising money from investors
Nice.
to do this. And those were short term, like a 2 year term. We invested in specific assets and then close out that fund. 2 years ago, we opened a new company with a new fund. And to date, we're 2 years old now. There's 8 employees, myself and 8 others. And we've raised about between 25 and $30 million to do this.
Wow. Congratulations. And
So
firstly, the name of your company is 7E Investments.
yeah, so 7E, which play on my name,
Yeah.
is what we DBA as. The company is actually CWS Investments, but seven in the past, we've always done 7E is what I've always branded at for the last 8 years. But when you're in real estate and you do different deals,
Mm,
every different type of deal or entity is always a different, like, company name, if that makes sense.
yes.
Like
Yes.
real estate developers, there's a big developer in our area called Lerner who owns the Washington Nationals. Everyone knows him as Lerner, but every building they own is like 123 Main Street LLC or whatever,
Got
so
you.
each fund we do technically has like a
Is a
different
different
name, but
name.
it's just all under the branding of
The
70,
mother
just like
company is
Amazon. Amazon's
7E.
got, 20 AWS and all these other
Right.
names, but everyone thinks Amazon, same thing.
So it only when you said that did I actually connect it back to your name. So thank you, Chris. I was like, what does
Yeah.
the 7E stand for? Like I
So
thought it was going to be like some intricate
no, so
strategic.
it's funny because I've had people literally call me up 4 months later and basically like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "What?" They're like, "I figured it out." I'm like, "Figured what out?" What the 7 and the E stands for. And then I just laugh. I just
That's
laugh.
great. That's good.
Uh,
That's good. That's good. So you're an entrepreneur.
mhm,
You founded this. Talk to us a little about if you go back 8 years,
mhm.
right? To when a big part of this journey began. Like if you were to go back 8 years ago and talk to yourself, like what would be some of the key takeaways that you now know that you would give yourself back then to accelerate your progress, success?
Oh, great question. And probably you've heard this multiple times. One is, uh, and I don't know if this is a guy thing or whatnot, but I can do it all. I don't need help. I just want to do it
Mm,
all. I don't want to deal with people. So I was still working a full-time job, doing this on the side, growing the business, and basically thinking, okay, this is going well, going well. And then I brought on a business partner, Lauren, who I'm an engineer by trade. So I'm, sit in my basement, let me plug numbers and, try and buy these loans. I'm not great at, you know, the sales part or letting people know what we do or coming
mm,
across. I'm way too technical and I just lose people. Lauren, who also is in the business, has that, excellent sales background that she knows how to relate to an investor.
mm.
And give a perfect example. 4 prior funds before I had Lauren on board, we had raised $10 million over from 16 to say 2022.
Okay.
So it's 2022 with Lauren, we've raised 25 plus. So by myself, I raised 8 to 10 in half the amount of time with somebody else, triple. So
Wow.
that's one. And then the second thing I would tell people is it's great to have big aspirations, but don't undershoot yourself. It's some people are like, oh, I just the first several million is the hardest, and then after that you get more momentum going, and you still have to always stay to your your business core of for us it's honesty, integrity, transparency, very certain things. We always stick to our core values, but I thought I undershot myself, and that's why I probably didn't bring anybody on. I thought, oh, I'm not good enough to do that. Meanwhile, I'm out
Okay.
there running $100 million construction project and basically like, hey, I got this, hold my beer. This is easy, but I was doing it for somebody else. People sometimes don't have that self-confidence to do it themselves.
So because when you said undershoot, I was like, what is that? So you're basically saying back yourself, like where you know
Yeah.
your sweet spots are, know where your blind spots are too, but
Yeah.
back yourself
And
so
have
you can go
confidence
do this.
and
Yeah.
confidence in what you do and have confidence in your people.
Can you
Make it,
run?
go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Keep finish your sentence. Sorry.
I was gonna say, in confidence in the people. If I have
Yes.
somebody on board, you have to trust them and have confidence in them.
Mm,
If you don't trust them or have confidence, then they're not gonna. It's gonna be a disservice to you. And for
yes.
us, we're all remote, and everyone knows the whole work, in person, remote. And some companies are like, I don't trust people working remotely. Look, I have half my staff is out in California. I tell them I'm not flying out to California, knock on your door to see if you're working or not.
Right.
We all have a job to do, and we brought in people who we think can do that work.
Fantastic. Would you mind just riffing on your core values? Because I haven't spoken about this with any entrepreneur in a minute, but it seems like, I mean, you just rattled them off. It seems like you are very much tied into the core values that you have. And
Mhm.
talk us through when you're hiring in, like you were just
Mhm.
speaking, how are you seeing if a person in California has integrity? I mean,
Yep.
what are you doing to test that?
Yeah, so it's real interesting in that what we found is, so I'm ultra type A, big idea type of person, but also kind of, also the realist.
Right.
And what I have found is people kind of can fit that culture. A lot of people I know use a service called Culture Index,
Hmm.
which is, if you're familiar with it, basically it's
Hmm.
kind of, I'll call it a test, but it's a survey that really defines who you are and how you work. And that's, a component that we looked into at one point in time. But what I found is most of the people who work with us are, have some type of athletic background. And for me, as the leader of the company, I I think the first thing is, humility in
Mm,
that making sure I don't know it all. Having the people ask the questions, invite people to be open-minded, but also know your lane. Like I was on a call an hour ago, um, discussing a component of our business, and we use Microsoft Word and Teams. And I basically, this person mentioned something, and I went over to Lauren. I'm like, hey, look, this is way above my head. All you take it. And
yeah,
she takes it and run, whether it's her, our accountant, whoever it
sure.
is. The other big thing for us is, and this is where I think a lot of people who aren't leaders struggle, and it's courage. And by that, it's making decisions to trust your gut, but also pushing against somebody. I'm okay if somebody says, Chris, I kind of don't agree with you because of ABC. And it's like, okay, like I will then, which the next one is inclusivity, kind of bring togetherness in that and say, okay, let's talk about it. And sometimes I'd say, I just disagree. But it's okay to disagree in a fashion that it's not like vindictive or you're getting upset with
Mm,
somebody. It's
mm,
really that inclusivity and courage of let's have an open discussion. Like with my accountant will provide, some information and basically like, this is what I think we should do, but I'm afraid to bring it to you because I'm afraid how you're going to react. I'm like,
yeah,
you
that's
can't be like that.
yeah.
And the last component really to that is, people got to take ownership. If I make a mistake, I am the first one to say I made that mistake because that will resonate. You don't want people not admitting their mistakes. And by doing all of this, the last kind of one, and like I talked about, honesty, integrity, transparency, all kind of fall into this, is knowing your lane. Some people try to want to know it all. And
Hmm.
I don't want to know it all as the CEO of the company. I want to know who to go to. And it goes back to the book, Who, Not How. It's like, who is the
Yes,
expert on that? Who is the expert we can bring in that can
yes.
talk about this, or internally, who's the person that's going to handle this? I don't need to know how you make, the sausage. I just want to know, are we following our standard operating procedures? And when do we anticipate it on being done?
Great summary. Great summary. Fascinating on that culture index. I've spent a bit of time in that world too, and I think that that's how you build that ownership
Mhm.
culture, for lack of a better word, because you've got everybody that's modeling it, and if you're modeling it, like you said, you and your leadership team at the top are modeling it too. It's very easy to fall underneath and see that.
Yeah, what's
match.
also interesting is it also gives you a different, like, I'm an engineer. I think differently than Lauren does on the sales side.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but understanding how they think allows me how to be able to communicate better because I can't talk to her like I'm talking to an engineer and she can't talk to me like I'm a salesperson. It's kind of
Ah,
like we're speaking that different language. And I joke, it's like, the book, The Love Languages Between Husbands and
yep,
Wives and so
yep.
forth. It's the same thing in business with business partners. There's a language of how people learn, how people get motivated, how people can be criticized. You know,
Yes.
all of that is so key in making sure you're trying to get the best out of your people.
Let me pull back and with your permission, want to
Yep.
ask you more of a personal question. You said
Yeah.
humility now twice.
Mhm.
You said that you've got a family as well. Are you being strategic in how you teach your children humility? And what would be some tips that you could give the listeners as to how
Mhm.
do you teach, whether it's your employee or your kid, how do you
Mhm.
teach someone humility?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I mean, honestly, it's like anything by example.
Mm,
And, was you know, basically raising our kids and stuff, I had bad habits. And my wife would always say, you have to stop that because, your kids are going to mimic you,
mm,
are a mirror image of you. And I didn't believe that. And
mm,
then, one time my son did something. I'm like, oh my God, that's me. I'm like, okay, you can't do that. But it's for us, it's, my wife is from overseas, from former Soviet Union area. So for her, I'll use it, the lifestyle outside of the US and lifestyle in the US is very different.
very
So
different.
for her, very thankful for everything we have.
Hmm.
We don't brag about anything, whether if we did drive a nice car or whatever it is, we share on our successes. We share and help, we want to help others, because people might not be as fortunate as us. Our son and daughter, it's, hey, you try and help people that, fit who want to
Hmm.
be helped or work
Hmm.
with you. It's not, hey, I play a game, I win, and you stick it in their face. It's,
Right.
you win with humility, and because there's going to be a time you're going to lose,
Yep.
and there's going to be somebody who doesn't have humility and is going to rub it in your face.
Yep.
We've all been there. But I'm sorry, it took a long way to answer this question. It's
No,
really
not at all.
by setting that example is the best way with your kids and just teaching them and letting them know, some of the things that you've experienced or some of the other things that go on in the world. Because unfortunately, in today's world, it's either your parents or what's on these things people see. And we all know, well, let me rephrase
Touche.
this.
Yeah.
What's on these things is manipulated to fit a certain persona for what you're looking for.
Well said. Well said. And then that reflects as well on your employees.
Yep.
Final question for you before we turn the corner and begin to wrap this up, Chris, and
Mhm.
I appreciate your time today. You mentioned in building your team, you said a lot of our team are athletes. I
Mhm.
was like, what? That
Former
I just
athletes.
didn't
Yeah.
see it
Mhm.
coming. Or former athletes. I
Yeah.
just didn't
So,
see that coming. Talk to us more about that. Because you're
yeah.
not in an athletic world. You're in the
Yeah. I
mortgage
mean,
world.
it's not so like I played baseball in college. Our co-founder, Lauren, she was a water polo. And she's out in California. And what we found is, the type of people, because I'm a type A and I am hard to deal with sometimes because I'm always go, go, go. But
Hmm.
sometimes if the person is extremely passive, they're not going to be able to go back to those core values of be able to have the courage to tell me no. When you're as a
Interesting.
part of, athletes as part of a team, it's sometimes like, hey, you're hogging the ball too much, even if they're the best player, it's like, cut the what type of thing. I love giving this example because this is kind of comical. We had one of our team members who was our third, Lauren and I was kind of like our first hire. And, we sent this person kind of the job description and they turned around and sent it back to us, revised in a format of this is how I understand the job description or understand the role, reorganized.
Hmm.
And I was like, and basically, it was correct, correct in regards to it was kind of a little bit of misorganized because let's be
Right.
honest, a lot of times when you're just finding a
You're
job
throwing it
description.
together,
You
right?
find one already online, you just kind of copy and paste and stick a few words
Yep.
in.
Yeah.
But she took it and was like, just so I understand the job when we go to speak, here's how I understand the different roles within this job. And I was like,
Curious.
wow, that is a power move. Like, and it fit her personality where she's very operations driven, very systems, driven. But I think the component with, going back to, athletes, and again, there's other professions and stuff. But to me, this is just being an athlete kind of stuck out is that people want to win. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
People also kind of have the courage, as part of a team that, hey, we are a team. Yes, I'm the quarterback on the field, but everyone plays a key component. And sometimes
Love
a
it.
quarterback may screw up. And hey, it's okay to tell the quarterback they screw up. So that's kind of what we found because I've been involved in some other companies more on a passive side. And when we found, certain team members that didn't have kind of all that type of click, sometimes it led to more friction. When you had someone really type A and somebody who's extremely passive, the two of them are great, but together it's just like, a marriage. I mean, there's people who work great for you and there are people who you might like them and they're great, but they're not like, okay, could never have that person as my spouse.
So fine. Again, last question, promise this time, because you just triggered another one for me. So you've obviously built this team, and we've talked about all the skill sets. And talk to me about, like, on your team, what's one of the great superpowers one of your teammates have that you've never worked with before? You're like, this person does this, and if I could hire for that, I would, but I had no idea until I had them here, and now they do this.
Man, well, we don't have enough time because I think almost every one of my employees has
Something.
a superpower, from Lauren in the way she can just, talk to somebody and relate. And then Delaney is the operations person who can set up our Microsoft systems and just be so organized, makes things so much easier. Our accountant who knows all the SEC rules that we have to follow, which I was like, oh my God, how did I accidentally find you? Katie, who runs our investor relations, who is the happiest person on the planet and could have an investor call her up, basically be like, I didn't get my distribution this month. Yes, you did. And calm them down and basically almost be like a 911 operator and deal with those individual. So, and that's, we got several other people. I have a woman, Larissa, who runs our asset management, who same thing is just, so organized. And we have marketing and other investor relations people as well. So I think every one of them has their own unique superpower, but it's almost like none of us have the same superpower.
That's good. The diversity there is good. That's great. So as we close out today, Chris, what's a good referral to you? If the listener's thinking and listening to this and wants to flip it around, like, what's a good referral to you? Who's your best incoming client?
So for us, well, interestingly enough, so we have over like 600 investors, that invest with us. So, because we open it up to retail investors, so anybody can invest with us with, most real estate type deals. It's like, I got to do 50,000 or whatnot. We're $5,000, and you don't have to be accredited or non-accredited. You can be non-accredited. So for us, referral, for us, if it's on the investment side, it's somebody who, is looking for income. Target I can't guarantee. There's no promises in any investment. At target, just steady income. Steadily monthly check coming in the door is one side of things, and then we're always connecting referrals with attorneys, title companies, real estate agents. I mean, anybody in the retail space. Real estate space is a connection that we're always communicating with because we work with every single person who's involved in real estate.
Wow. Well, ladies and gents, Chris from 7E Investments, appreciate your time and your brain dump right there, especially the superpower conversations. It's been fabulous to meet you. Reach out to him, connect with him on LinkedIn, and send him some business. You can make some money, but there's no guarantee. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Have a great
Take
day.
care. Yeah.